Good. All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is June 27th, 2024. Time is 9 o'clock. Going to agenda item A. All board members are present and accounted for. If everybody could stand for the invocation and pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings over Green Valley, its partners, ratepayers, and the board members as well. We ask for the words of wisdom and guidance and truth that will set this company for the future success and everything else that we do in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we're going to go to agenda item C, General Manager opening statement. Welcome, Mr. Gage.
Yeah, Mr. Gage, did it feel funny to put your hand over your heart instead of saluting?
Well, it's a little difficult, sir, but I'm getting used to it. So
Awesome.
good morning, Board of Directors, and thank you, Mr. Frias, for recognizing me for a minute this morning. So I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself kind of publicly, as a general manager here for Green Valley, and I can tell you all that I appreciate the confidence the board has put in me to select me for this position, and I'm really humble and honored for it. This is in my fourth week right now, and a couple of things are clear. And one thing is clear is, Green Valley has a very clear mission, and that mission is really, to provide sustainable, reliable, and efficient water, wastewater solutions to our customers through innovation, expertise, and professional service. What rings true with me is the word service. And I think that's what Green Valley is about. And as I look at this thing going forward, I'm thinking of Green Valley really in 3 time zones, I call it, now, the future, and always. And now is very simply described as we have to meet our commitments to our customers and to those that we interact with on a daily basis. The future is really beginning, building the foundation of growth that we know is coming and positioning Green Valley to be in the right position to serve, there's that word again, our customers into the future. And then always is really about taking care of our employees. And the concept is very simple. If we take care of our employees, our employees take care of the mission. And that's what I think it's all about. And as I know more, as I grow, into this position and learn more, I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for Green Valley. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the board and the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to agenda item D, public comment. Do we have any public comments? Philip? Nope. Okay, anybody from the crowd? Going once, twice? All right, moving on. Thank you very much. Going to agenda item E, consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered and action taken as necessary as part of the order of business. Does anybody have any comments, questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Frias, I have just one or two minor comments, and then I'll make a motion. I'm going to ruin my streak. Our numbers are looking better. Our expenditures seem to be reduced, which is, I believe, a good thing. I'm hoping it's a good thing. So I've recognized that. And then also, Mr. King and I were chatting a little bit earlier. We're still seeing some of the monies being held in some low interest bearing accounts, but Heidi has told us just before the meeting that we are in the process of moving those over to some higher bearing accounts. Was that your understanding as well, Mr. King?
Yeah.
So that was one question I had, but it seems like we're already addressing that. So
I think 2 million's already been moved and they're looking at the rest of it.
right. So the one thing, a couple things I noted, y'all are already taken care of. So good work on that. And if no one else has any other comments, I'll make a motion that we approve items E1 through E5 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, ayes have it. Okay, going to agenda item F. Hear updates of the following items from Green Valley SUDs, general manager, staff, and committee chairs, and take action as necessary. F1, business and operations, general manager memo and update, Mr. Gage.
So thank you for recognizing me for this. For the first thing I want to do is recognize one of our employees, in front of the board and the public for some really outstanding work. So I'm gonna ask Jeremiah Sedana to come up. So Jeremiah is a 9-year veteran, if you will, of Green Valley, right? And he is our supervisor, of our water operations. And recently, as I've gotten to know him over the months, so I haven't known him that long. One of the first times I met him, he's walking around studying for his test, for his Class B water license. And I was like, okay, are you going to make it? And he did. So he went and made it. He got his test, and and he is an example of leadership at all levels of Green Valley. So I want to recognize him in front of the board and give him his Class B water license. Congratulations. Allow him to go back to work because that's what he really wants to be doing. Not in here hanging with us. Okay, for my memo, the next item, I just have some very wave top items to hit. We'll go into a lot of detail later on. Under staffing, just to highlight, one change to the memo. We do have 50 employees on hand at this time. We do have 2 candidates, so we're looking to add as utility technicians in the near future. So that is not completed yet, but it's ongoing. For Mr. Sherman's comment about, future investments, we're establishing our relationship with Frost Bank. Expect the accounts to be open with Frost Bank on the 1st of July. We have a meeting this afternoon with their Vice President of Government Sales, and we're going to work through the details of how that transition is going to work out. So we can discuss more of that later, but that's just a brief update that's ongoing. The next item I had on here was my 90-day assessment, and really it's going extremely well. I've interviewed, met with 30 of our 52 employees this time. We have 50 now, and that's going very well. I'm learning a lot about the organization and where we need to go with that. So just a brief update there. And then the final thing, which I think is progress that is a result of a good board decision, I believe, to install GPS units on our equipment. I would describe us now as having initial operating capacity. We have 35 pieces of rolling stock with GPS already installed. So right now that is already working. We have 35 systems on hand that goes on every piece of equipment to include trailers, excavators, and the like, non-powered equipment, if you will. We're doing that install in-house. I expect us to be full operational capacity at the end of July. We've had, as you know, some intervening things that we've had to take care of this month. We'll get those installed, and that's going to give us full asset visibility of all our equipment and to prevent theft, to ensure that we have efficient use of our. So those were my updates. Pending any questions for the board.
Yes, sir. Real quick, you've got 35 units installed. When will you have that project completed?
So I believe, and I'm saying believe, because we have to install them in-house around our workload that our crews are working out with the equipment. It'll be done by the end of July. So we will finish it. And one other piece of fully operational capacity is what I'm describing is we will have the account set up with the appropriate managers to have the appropriate access. Right now, I can see them, there's 2 or 3 of us on staff that can actually use the program because we haven't implemented our procedures yet. So all of that'll get wrapped up. I'll report to you next board meeting by the 25th where we are. I think we can make it.
Thank you. And that was leading into my second question.
Yes, sir.
What is the plan for staff to monitor the GPS systems?
So right now we're sketching out the plan. But the idea is going to be within our control center and our SCADA room. I know you all are aware of that room. We'll have the ability to pop that up. We'll have the manager's ability to look at it. I see it as being very useful in terms of efficiency, particularly within our customer service and our run ticket. So the customer service manager will be able to see where our run ticket person is at all times. And that will improve efficiency, in terms of speed of customer service and, turning on and off systems, et cetera. So we'll use it like that. Operations manager will have it. We'll have it in the SCADA room. I will have it. And I also have that on my cell phone so I can monitor, after hours, weekends, everything. It's a really good enabling system for us. Good decision, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Good. All right. Moving on, operations report.
That one's, I'll do this one as well. I'll do it from over here if you don't mind.
Yep.
So the operations report, there's nothing significant really to look at that chart. But this is the chart that's provided. I will tell the board that I'm going to adjust this in the future to where it's a little bit more user friendly to understand. But pending any questions on that particular chart, it's a standard chart that we've been using. Over.
Nick, you good? Okay, just making sure that's kind of one of your thing. All right, thank you. Let's see. One triple I TCEQ inspection findings. I know we had it on there. I think we're going to talk about that more when it's officially presented.
Sir, I think what we'll do for that is the board knows the TCEQ comprehensive compliance inspection happened yesterday. Overall, the informal readout is that we did well. I don't want to go into too much details about the findings because I do not have the official findings. I just have an informal outbrief for the inspector, but I can say she was impressed with our preparation and we did well overall, but I think we'll leave that to when we receive the official results.
And we should have that for July's board meeting.
It should be within 60 days. I think it'll take her about 10 days to compile it. She verbally told me her timeline, but it'll be within the next 60 days, I believe.
Okay. Well, if we get it on July, we get July. If not, we'll brief it in August. Thank you. All right, 1-4, contract reconciliations.
I just want to briefly talk about that. So staff has been working on listing contracts with the developers and where we may have fallen a little short in the past on reconciling the contracts. Ballpark number right now is we've recovered around $80,000 in reconciliation on contracts. And so far the response from the developers has I want to say well received. Nobody wants to give them money, but they've been working with us.
How far back are we going? A year?
Here.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Philip, I'm sorry, before you walk away, what type of a percentage on all of our developer contracts would you say you've gotten through to this point? I mean, ballpark.
Don't have that number. I'm sorry.
Is it, would you say it's the majority, the minority? I mean.
I'm gonna look at Gabe. Also, the staff that's doing that right now
Yes,
isn't
sir.
in the room, so I'm sorry.
And while Gabe walks up here, good job. I mean, this is a good job. We're finding unbilled money. I mean, that's an excellent job by staff. So.
Turn it over to Gabe.
Yes, sir. Can you repeat the question?
So what type of a percentage in the 1 year look back that y'all are doing now, as far as if we had 50 developer contracts, you've gotten through 20 of them, 60 of them, what kind of a percentage of the task of the look back would you estimate you've completed?
I would say of the total contracts we're currently constructing and applying professional services towards, 75%.
Okay. So yeah,
Just to put a rough number on it.
no, that's all I'm looking for, because, we might pick up a little bit more fund, recovered funds, but we won't get double this. That's just
Really
in
the
my
high-
mind.
That number of actual work and construction, I would say that's closer to 100%, probably
Okay.
80 to 90%. That there's a buffer of work contracts that haven't gone into construction yet, where it's just in the preliminary. So a lot of these contracts y'all approve, when we execute them, they don't start construction or even submit us plans for sometimes a year or two. And so that's a number. We're investigating to find the totality of where our contracts are for multiple reasons, right? But we have, if we had our total contracts equaled 100% of executed contracts, I would guess that 70% of them are actually working or have started work and broken ground in one shape or form. There's like the 20 to 30% out there that haven't even started anything yet.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Are we good? All right, moving on to F2, CRWA Board Trustees post-meeting updates. Mr. Cooper and Mr. Sherman.
Steve, I'm gonna let you lead off.
Mr. Sherman takes a lot better notes than I do, believe it or not. But there nothing of major concern. The ARWA interconnect came up in discussion, and Mr. Sherman will speak to a meeting that he called to be able to discuss the potential expense that we were told we were going to have to incur. The drought report was bad once again. There is a new term that we're faced with called La Nada this year. It's not El Nino, it's La Nada. So it basically means we don't know what's coming. The pipeline is our portion. I'm going to leave that for Mr. Sherman to discuss. The only concern that I had that I researched was the emergency generators at Wells Ranch are still not fully functional. And they're trying to make sure that they get those generators fixed and up and running. And David McMullen is working hard to make that happen. But it's concerning to me that in a major catastrophe, not 100% of the generators are functional right now. So that's all I had.
I'll speak to the ARWA meeting that I called. Mr. Cooper, myself, and Philip attended along with.
Hold on real quick. Is that CRWA? Because we're.
Yeah, it was under CRWA.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna do it
Just wanna
on
make sure,
CRWA.
because I know you got ARWA coming up. Oh, okay.
Correct. So we had Green Valley, ARWA, and CRWA. In the CRWA meeting, previously, Steve and I were kind of blindsided that we were told Green Valley would need to fund the modification to connect into the CRWA Lake Dunlap plant with the ARWA pipeline. We were confused as to how that was our responsibility. Based on the very productive meeting, ARWA believes they have enough float in their budget that they can absorb the design costs and the construction costs. So that will be funded by ARWA is our understanding at this time. And the delay in constructing that pipeline won't be an issue because there is also a secondary emergency connection into Lake Dunlap that is built and ready to provide service as soon as the water treatment plant is substantially complete. So this was a excellent meeting all the way around. Best case scenario for Green Valley, I would say. We did have an update on the Tri-Hydro litigation with CRWA. So that is ongoing. It's basically in process, I guess is the best way to describe it. And we are approaching a level 3 water restriction off of Lake Dunlap. All the rains that we got recently were about 20 to 30 miles south of where we needed them to be to, add water to the lake system. So I was hoping we'd get more rain where we needed it, but we did not. So.
Have y'all gotten any feedback, any additional talk out of Canyon Lake, looking at limitations or voluntary limitations?
Yes, so that's the stage 3 restrictions that we are fast approaching.
Yeah.
Adam Telfer at CRWA every month gives us a chart that shows the lake level just continuing to reduce. It is at its lowest point since it was initially filling. So it's low.
Good. Awesome. Thank you for the information from both y'all. Going to F3, CRWA Board of Managers post-meeting updates.
So the Board of Managers meeting was held on Monday. I attended that. It was mostly related to the Hayes Caldwell segment of CRWA. That was the bulk of the discussion. That doesn't really apply to us, but their needs off of the Hayes Caldwell plant are still there. There's not a solution to the design. There are 4 member entities that all have to agree on what the plan is and how to fund it, and they don't see eye to eye is the best way I can say that politely. So they still have some challenges. Staff is, I'm pleased with the new general manager over there, Mr. Averett. He is, I think, managing the different personalities well, and everything's moving in the right direction. It's just not there yet. The only other two items were two TxDOT realignment of two CRWA pipelines. They're approaching, Utility Engineering Group is actually handling that for CRWA. They are approaching completion, and it's always the topic of discussion when we take those pipelines down for the connecting into the new route of the pipelines. Generally, they were lowered and the casings were extended outside of new TxDOT right away. So the actual shutdowns of those is always the key discussion, during the heat of the summer in high demand period. So those are fast approaching, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, thank you for the update. Going to F4, ARWA Board of Directors post-meeting updates.
So again, the ARWA meeting is held yesterday, so just got to give you the verbal update. But it was a very quick meeting. We approved a task order for the water treatment plant upgrade, because we need to upgrade it already to provide more service. Was approved. A portion of it was approved. Staff is still negotiating with the design consultant to hopefully improve the proposed fee for the full scope of it. But we've approved about 27% of the engineering budget. The engineering budget is $6.3 million for that effort, and staff and the engineer are very comfortable that they can get it done within that dollar amount. The Green Valley portion of that work is $14.6 million, which will include upgrades of just the treatment plant. To provide extra capacity to Green Valley, there will need to be another small project at the well fields to drill some more wells, and to drop some additional high service pumps at the booster pump station that pumps the water south to us. But those would be generally low in scope. This is a task for staff amongst all your other tasks. CRWA and ARWA, when we get some of these construction costs, we need to know those numbers and plug them into our water acquisition fee on an occasional basis. So it's helpful for me to hear those numbers in advance so that it's not a shock, and that's why I try to share them as best I can. We had some additional cybersecurity insurance that we picked up. I spoke to Mr. Gage about that earlier. Generally low cost for some additional cybersecurity coverage. So that's a good thing. And it was a pretty short meeting. ARWA meetings have been pretty lengthy these days.
Awesome. Thank you again for that update. Okay, F5, Board Directors Committee meeting updates, Finance Committee, Mrs. McDaniel.
I included my minutes in the packet. If everybody looked them over, does anybody have any questions? What we covered the budget schedule for fiscal year 24-25. We covered outsourcing some finance functions, petty cash, the new gen rate order, and the investment policy. Anybody have any questions?
What's the timeline that the budget has to be approved? What's the drop dead date?
So there's a list of the timeline. We're going to, the Finance Committee, the first draft of the budget will be presented to the Finance Committee on our August 6th Finance Committee meeting. After we look it over, it with Heidi and Gina and Mr. Gage, see if there's any changes, and then we will present a copy of that draft to the rest of the board on August the 19th for review. And then if you guys want to make any changes, that'll be done, and the modified draft that we all agree upon will be up for discussion at the August 22nd board meeting. And then the final budget will be voted on at the September 27th board meeting.
But when does it formally have to be submitted? Shan, do you know that date?
October, well, it has to be voted on and approved before October 1. So, so it could take into effect. So I think the timeline, the workload, that's about to be underway. I think that's good. Does anybody have any comments on the timeline?
Just concerned that we're waiting till the September 27th meeting to give a final approval for a report that's due 4 days after that.
So there's that,
It's in August, right?
yeah, that's in August. It's not due till the end of September.
No, but what Mr. Cooper is alluding to is that we're pushing the mark of the due date of when we have to vote to make it final. If we're doing it 4 days before that day, that is his concern, correct, Mr. Cooper?
Correct.
So that's the main concern. If we voted it in August, my question would be, would we done all the due diligence needed in that time frame to make sure that we could have voted in August? But if we need that time, if for any last minute changes, are we taking a risk of butting up against that due date? Mr. Gage, you feel confident with the timeline presented, or
So,
do we
so
wanna-
actually, the intent is, and the finance committee was pretty generous with us in terms of timeline. I intend to give you more than one swing at the pitch, right? So if we have the finance committee in July, and we'll present our draft in July, we can also have the finance committee in August, then in August 27th, we should have a good enough product, right? That the board should know.
August
where we are
22nd?
Comfortable in August.
Yeah.
And then that gives us an opportunity, if there are any issues to work out, we can vote on it then in September. I mean, I do agree, I would rather get it done in August. But I don't want to rush to failure and not give you a good product. And we do have a lot of new faces. So I can tell you that Gina, our financial controller is already having pretty detailed budgeting meetings with all the managers now. And so we're going through that process. So it's one of those things. I think we could do it sooner, sure. But this gives us a few swings of the pitches through committee and board meetings to get us through September. So I'm comfortable with it, but it's just, we've got a couple of swings of the pitch, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And I to build on Steve's comment, what is the effort once, say we do approve it in September, and we have a 4-day deadline to get it in. How much effort is it for staff to submit?
I'll look for my phone a friend on that. I think it's relatively easy, but I do not know for sure to see if Philip has a comment.
I just want to echo the comments on the timeline. It kind of is mirroring how we did this last year, where we were planning to do a first reading of the budget in August. And if the board recalls, the board at the time approved the budget in August because they found it satisfactory. So that's our goal, not necessarily to get it approved in August, but to get a completed product to the board in August. And if there's comments on it or work that still needs to be done, then that gives us another 30-day window or 4-week window to get a totally agreed upon product to the board for that September vote.
Let's not forget too, if we look like we're getting up against the window there, there's always the option of a special meeting just with that item. I'm like you, I don't think we'll get there. But it's always an option if needed.
I think with the due diligence that they're doing now in preparation, I would expect and hope that the August meeting, we could all come to agreement on that one and be the date. But the last minute Hail Mary, if we have to, is at least positioned for the 27th of September. But I get your point. So
My personal concern is that there's probably going to be some pretty major changes in this year's budget. And I want to make sure that every board member has the opportunity to examine, compare, and determine if there's any other changes that need to be made in plenty of time. We did approve last year's budget rather quickly after everybody, I believe, fulfilled their responsibility, but I don't think the budget's going to be as easy this year.
no, and I think with staff's due diligence now and the work that they've been putting in now, I think they're ahead of it compared to last year. So I think we're looking better than we should be.
And Steve, I think between the 3 finance committee members that are already, meeting and having discussions with staff, staff is getting more of a gut check, by a minority of the directors, in advance. So, it's a good call. I definitely don't want to be up against the deadline if we can avoid it, but I think we've got some effort that is being put in by, the finance committee, a fair bit of effort initially.
And
so.
my belief is that I'm going to trust what the finance committee tells me. So hopefully we get a good report out of the finance committee and we can move forward quickly.
I also would like to make the comment that the difference between last year and this year is we actually have a true financial controller who's helping with the numbers. And she has a background in doing budgets. So, I mean, I have full faith in her. And we did, when we discussed the initial timeline, we discussed we're putting the due diligence on them to have a first draft. We gave them 6 weeks to come up with a first draft. With all the other stuff going on, they had the inspection, plus you have the fact she's pretty new, he's new. Everybody needed a little bit of time just to onboard. So that's why we allowed 6 weeks for them to present the first draft to the finance committee.
My only concern is if the first draft to the board is August 19th, and in hopes that we vote on this in August 22nd's board meeting, that's not a lot of time for the rest of the board members to review it. So is there any way that we can get that to the board sooner?
These are just potential dates that, we discussed. I'm sure we can move that.
Yeah.
We can move that, earlier to the review to where, I mean, what do y'all think is a fair amount of time to look over
Would
the
2
first
weeks
draft?
be appropriate?
My number one concern is that we get a good budget.
But
We'll work within the timeline, but the earlier the better, yes.
But I would think 2 weeks would give the board members that aren't on
Well,
the
should have
committee
plenty of
enough
time.
time to review, deliberate, get with staff if they have questions, and then shoot for that 22nd for approval.
So if it's allowable, as soon as the finance committee and staff are done with the draft, if it can be sent out in advance of the board packet,
Oh, yeah, that would be its own.
staff just get it out
Concur.
to us as soon
Yeah.
as possible. And I think that would address everyone's, timeline concerns.
12th instead of the 19th,
Okay,
just 1 week earlier. That gives everybody a couple
That
weeks to
should,
look at it.
yeah. Mr. Cooper, you good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait, Steve.
All right. Good questions all around. All right, moving to 5II, Construction Committee update. Mr. Sherman.
Yes, the construction committee met and went over some potential phasing and costs, high-level costs of the treatment plant expansion. The costs that were presented were not complete. They lacked, some site work costs, some electrical costs. It was just more of the equipment, but it's definitely something we need to consider fully. Gary and Utility Engineering Group actually had another meeting with them afterwards. My intent was to not have multiple meetings, so I apologize for that. But they met with the same folks that we talked to. So he's got, a good understanding of what we went over as well. So it's just something we got to get together fairly quickly and decide what route we want to go with the treatment plant expansion. Staff has a good understanding of our needs as far as timeline and when we need additional capacity. So we're all still going to circle up, and it's my understanding we will have another construction committee meeting if that's the direction of the board to kind of have a more refined discussion on it. This was an initial high level discussion, but the board as a whole needs to make a decision pretty quickly. We also need to have the discussion of financing of the additional expansion.
We have that teed up for executive session in a
Yes.
minute.
So we'll talk more about the costs in the executive.
Thank you. Okay, going to item F6, Development and Capital Improvement.
Mr. President, there wasn't an executive committee report this month, meeting this month?
No, other than agenda review.
Thank you.
F6, Development and Capital Improvement Projects Memo and Updates. Mr. Cantu.
All right, I've got a memo provided there for you. We're gonna kind of skip over the development status one and go over it in item H. Since item H is when we're gonna talk about the impact study.
Hold on.
Impact fee study.
Real quick, so on item 6, you're not gonna update us on any
No,
of
it's the
that?
development paragraph, the forward of the memo.
Okay.
Where we get into statistics for the development rate. So development's still building out at a high pace right now. We're still building out at a 5.8% rate of growth. And I just wanted to dig into the numbers on item 8 during the item H
Okay.
Portion, because a lot of these numbers apply to the water impact fee assessment we're going to be going over in item H. They're all development numbers that are in this paragraph.
Well, in item H, there are some questions I have for legal on that one, so we're gonna take that into executive session as well.
Correct.
So we'll hold off on H for a minute. But do you have any more on item F6 that you need to go over?
Absolutely. On the capital improvement portion of the memo, you know, we got a couple of projects we'll probably be bringing to the board next month regarding awarding some bids that are advertising right now. We've got Abbott Road, which is a $2.3 million capital project. Developer, it's a developer fronted with impact fee reimbursement. And that 2.3 million, and that's 9,200 feet of 16-inch water main down Abbott Road. That's going to be feeding that whole sector in St. Hedwig of Clearwater Creek, Thea Springs, Lily Springs. You'll be seeing Thea Springs later in the contract portion of this project, but those are the three big developments going in over there in St. Hedwig for that Clearwater Creek treatment plant. This is the water portion of that whole thing. This is the main feed to those developments down there. And so, yeah, we'll be having a bid opening here in a couple of weeks and awarding it at the meeting next month. We've got another one called ZIP. It's really for a little business development on Zip Road called River City Heavy Haul, which is a little contract y'all approved a few months ago. And it's just a little 8-inch water main extension for a public fire hydrant that they need. And so they didn't have the ability to, or resources necessarily, or the people knew the right people to design, engineer, and build this thing out. So they asked for our services on it, which created a CIP, if you will, which is all developer funded 100%. So that's a little 469 feet water main extension over on Zip Road for a public fire hydrant. And that's all that is. Fully developer funded. So that'll be awarded, or we'll be proposing to award at the board meeting next month.
Will this give access to fire flow to other residents up and down there?
It
Is
will,
this- is
for
this-
the immediate, that little part of Zip Road is where, if you're familiar with the area, it's a little jog down of Zip Road. And yeah, I'd say for 1,000 feet each way, they'll have, it's very rural right there, but it's also at the edge of development of Highland Ridge development that's been going on for 4 years now. They've only completed phase 1 in that development, but just 1,000 feet away is the edge of that development, which has a ton of fire hydrants in there and fire protection. So all this business is doing is extending about 1,000 feet south of that development and needing to extend that water infrastructure that Highland Ridge put in 1,000 foot south. But yeah, it does extend the fire protection in that area. But not related, there's some other development coming in south of that is going to, that is contracted and going to bring fire protection to that whole area. Is going to be extended further out from where they're currently extending it, correct? We got 5 projects in construction, and we'll hit a little bit later on one of them, which is a Homestead ground storage tank. There's some delays there, and I'm gonna have Tri-Hydro speak on that here in a minute. We have 3 projects currently in planned design, and Plant 3 pump and motor upgrade project. That's a development-driven CIP project, and we're probably going to be advertising for that next month. We're doing plan reviews right now with UEG, and they'll be probably advertising that here in a couple of weeks. That's again, Plant 3 pump and motor upgrades. Another one in design is the Clearwater Creek wastewater treatment plant. And we've also got a TxDOT project actively in design here on IH-10 for that IH-10 work corridor going east over here. We have 5 projects that are in the easement acquisition process. Santa Clara Road, Plant 3 fill line, City of New Braunfels reclaimed water line. Those easements are pretty much done. With working with Tri-Hydro as well on those. And so I think we finished cashing them, signing them checks over for those easements, and we can start proceeding with the design of the reclaimed water facilities and booster pump station.
Who do we have working on, excuse me, who do we have working on actually acquiring the easements?
The actual acquisition of the easements is with Texas Land and, well, we use Texas Land and Right of Way to help finalize them, but really Tri-Hydro was the resource we used to those. We had a last minute, we were having trouble getting a hold of some of the shakers and movers, if you will, to sign the easements over. So we just had to bring in a little bit of help at the 11th hour. We've got one last update, I guess, in regards to this memo with the, like I said, Homestead ground storage tank delays. And I'd like for Jason with Tri-Hydro to speak on that a little bit.
Yep. So I guess as you know, we've talked about this project for quite a while now. It's getting to the point it's not quite done, but they're still working. They're starting to get to the end of a substantial amount of the construction, but there is still a delay. Basically, the delay is the MCC. It's been on order. It was ordered back in December, and it's due to come in right now. Early December is when it's due. So we're about to the point where it's just going to be sitting and waiting on the MCC. I know the contractor is basically trying to resolve the contract as far as the amount of days. So that's kind of what we're going through at the moment. They've requested a change order to get back, basically the days that have been lost. Because at the moment, they're about 5 months over their contract times. So by the time the thing's complete, they'll be almost a year over their contract time. So the initial intent that we discussed with Green Valley staff was to handle this, closer to the end when we know the exact amount of time they're going to be over. But they're trying to settle it now. So,
Do you know offhand when the contract was initially awarded?
it was February 6th of 2022 or 2023, I believe.
So they began their contract in February of 23 and they ordered their motor control center in December of 23.
Correct. Yeah. So part of the delays were basically on the pump. That was a big portion of the delay. We spec'd out a pump. They're having a hard time getting it. It was finally, the submittal of that was approved in October, I believe, around October. And we couldn't really approve the MCC until we had the pump, because of the power requirements.
Was the pump that you specified what was selected, what was approved?
Yes. Yep. So we ended up approving one that we had spec'd, but they just didn't have a easy time finding it.
So the way I've handled discussions of delays at ARWA and at CRWA is
Mr. Sherman, why don't we, this could be a
That's going
potential
executive
dispute,
session.
and so
Okay.
I'd prefer to take this back to talk
we're
about.
able to take it back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Can we make a
Under
note to-
.071 of chapter 551.
Let's
No,
make
we'll
that-
take it to executive
Okay,
session.
if there's any other factual, then I'm very willing to give that.
You're
but
wel-
Otherwise, we
Yeah,
can
stand
talk.
by.
You're welcome to join us in there, so.
Yep.
Good call, Shan. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, so now we're going to go to agenda item G, consider non-standard water and wastewater service agreements and take action as necessary. G1, Mosaic Land Development, Smockle Track, 200 feet south of intersection of Smockle Road and Stolte Road.
Correct. So that's a water and wastewater agreement there. It's in the Cibolo ETJ. It's proposed to be done in 3 phases. Again, it's on Stolte Road between Bolton and Schmeckel area, so that's a very popular area right now of development. 622 EDUs of water and 620 of wastewater. There's a difference because of irrigation meters. It's about 248 acre feet per year of water. The water is going to be about 3,600 linear feet of 12-inch water main off-site extension, which is going to be a CIP developer funded. On the wastewater end, there's also a off-site extension of 18-inch wastewater main, about 7,900 feet, going all the way down Bolton Road towards the Ison plant. And that's also developer funded. And that's part of the Santa Clara Water Resource and Recovery Facility. And if you read through your documents in front of you, you'll see that that'll be available to them upon the completion of the next phase of the plant.
How close, if I may ask, does our current existing wastewater line where it terminates, how close does it come to Stolte right now?
It's about 1.5 miles.
Okay, so we will have to extend 1.5 miles.
They will,
Or they will?
They will be
Okay, they're going to
responsible.
pay for it.
yes,
Okay,
sir,
great.
an 18-inch line.
Steve, I'm sorry if you already said this. How many LUEs are in this one?
620 sewer and 622 water.
Thank you.
The difference is because of the irrigation services. Any more questions?
Yes, under item 2, under the fire flow section, this paragraph is written just slightly different than they normally are. It's less definitive that, yes, we have capacity and the fire flow requirements are this much pressure, you know, how we normally have them laid out. Is there a reason that it's laid out slightly differently? It's page 3, item 2 there.
You're talking about in the feasibility study or in the contract?
In the contract.
Oh, in the contract? Here, let me scroll back up there.
I mean, it appears to me that we are stating we have adequate fire flow, which is always my question. But it's just formed a little bit differently. We say down there, any successor is responsible for upgrades if the changes occur, including an HOA. Is there something unique about this development that causes this paragraph to be slightly different, or?
No, there's nothing unique. We do, every contract you'll see, if you really look at the fine print of them,
Slight revisions in how we word
slightly
things.
revise them to
Yeah.
make them more accommodating towards the feasibility study. But the short answer is the fire flows are applied for in their application. So that's the source of the information. So for instance, a lot of times they leave that blank or just put the area such as this one that they're in. So we know Cibolo ETJ and what the fire marshal will require over there. So we just, in the feasibility study, that's kind of the source of the information. So if you go there, that's kind of like where this, the overall contract at the end of the day points to the feasibility study, which is based off the application. So if you go to that portion, that's a little bit better, in my opinion, to look as a resource for the fire flow. So that's section 5, page 8 of 16, right?
Yes, okay, there it is. You point out more of what I'm.
That's where we get into more of the nuts and bolts of the flow based off their application. And even if they don't list it in their application, we know what the fire marshal will require. But at the end of the day, we put the responsibility on the developer to ensure they get those flows. That's the way
Okay.
this thing is built out.
That answers the question. Thank you.
Any more questions on,
I'll
Schmeckel?
just add real quick that we're working real hard internally in my shop to revise and improve and the agreement language in general. I've got help for the first time in a couple of years and I've put her to hard work and I'll go back though, Mr. Sherman, and compare that to previous language and make sure that that's the change that we want to stick with. But I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, let's go and talk about that.
Barry, you want to elaborate some more?
Mr. Frias asked me to explain a little bit about, in the past, we've talked about remaining funds on the sewer loan from the Water Development Board. This line was the discussion. The board hasn't taken action to allocate those unallocated funds to this project for Bolton Road, but that's been the discussion in the past. There's a couple of other things that help on this. So what the feasibility study shows is what the developer needs to meet their need for their development. This area needs to be master planned, obviously, to know what, and that's kind of a moving target with industrial. We don't know what's going to go out there, but we need to take some pretty hard looks at, what is our maximum use or what's the maximum land use out there. But there's $2.3 million in Water Development Board funds that are unallocated today that can be used for wastewater projects in the Santa Clara sewer shed. There's also one other service agreement, the property just west, we call it the Meyer Tract. It's just west of the AW Texas or ASIN plant. They've signed their contract to extend the sewer line through their frontage on Bolton Road. So that shortens this line, but it's not done today. So we recognize in the feasibility study that we're saying you've got to go the whole way. If everything lines up and that developer moves forward on Bolton Road, this line just gets shorter for the Schmeckel Tract developer. But we try to look at this as if they started today, what does this developer have to do? Because we don't know who this third party or when they're going to do anything. The third prong of that is in the settlement agreement with Cibolo, there's $600,000 that's allocated from Cibolo to this Bolton Road extension. So again, we don't know when that money is going to come in. There's some coordination that needs to go through that. But the feasibility study as presented is what they need to do today to go get service to this tract. We think it's going to get better as money comes in. If we allocate some money towards that line from the Water Development Board and then the developer on Bolton Road next door to AW Texas, if they come in and extend, I think it's 1,100 feet across their frontage. That helps this developer, but we don't control that timing. So just wanted to give a little bit of clarity on that this feasibility study is what they need to do if they want to go to development next week, but we think it will get better for them if these other developers that have already gone to contract build sooner. But we just can't say that today
So
with certainty.
to clarify, if anything changes in this feasibility study, it comes back so
That's
that the
correct.
board is aware.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the other thing is, once the master plan is done, and we're looking at this area anyway, just so before they start designing or before the design starts on the Bolton Road extension, we need to come back to the board and to staff and look at, does it need to be a 24-inch to a certain extent and then go down to 18-inch to Stolte Road, how far up Stolte Road, and kind of master plan those sizes and capacities for full build out so that we're not wasting funds on extensions and then go tear them out in a year or two as development occurs. So we're looking at that. But again, the feasibility study is written on what they need to do to move.
Any other questions?
Just to further clarify on the settlement issue, this line is specifically what is contemplated in the settlement agreement for use. And so this would not be this contribution by the city of Cibolo would not be taking away from the developer's obligation. What it would do would be allow the district to upgrade to that appropriate facility using some of those funds rather than taking them out of current capital funds or having to borrow.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions, concerns on the water or wastewater side? No. All right, we're going to do 2 votes to make sure everything is on the up and up. So on G1I, water non-standard service agreements, we'll vote on that one first. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the water non-standard service agreement for Mosaic Land Development.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, going to G1II, wastewater non-standard service agreement.
And one question on this, Mr. Frias, this flows to Green Valley's Santa Clara treatment
Yes.
facility?
like to make a motion to approve the wastewater non-standard service agreement for the Mosaic Land Development.
Second.
I have a Mr. Cooper for the motion. I'll go with Ms. McDaniel for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Going to G2, SA Do the Evolution LLC, AKA Thea Springs subdivision, 1 mile southeast of the intersection of Stapper Road and Abbott Road. We have 2 of them, water and wastewater. Mr.
That's right.
Cooper.
And that's in the St. Hedwig ETJ. And like I spoke earlier, part of that little triad of development with the Clearwater Creek and Lily Trails area in St. Hedwig. It's a single unit plat, only 100 EDU or 90, 100 water EDUs and 99 wastewater EDUs because there's 1 irrigation. There's not, in this contract, there's no offsite needed. They just got to simply extend the adjacent developments 12-inch water line through their development and connect it onto the road, Stapper Road, that's adjacent to this development.
Is the adjacent development's water line existing?
No, that needs to be built. So all this, the water and wastewater all hinges on the other developments offsite to be built. So Abbott Road, which is going to be hopefully awarded next month, that's part of it. There's a 12-inch offsite water line for the Clearwater Creek development and Thea Springs development that's coming down FM 2538. That's about 1.5 mile water line extension there. And then the Clearwater Creek development in itself has to extend the 12-inch water line through their development to get it to this development. So there's a lot of offsite water and wastewater that needs to happen for this development to finally come to fruition. Again, this will probably be one of them contracts that's for a year or 2 before they break ground on anything, but they're ready to go ahead and move forward now. So that way they can get, their planning started. Again, the sewer, this will be in the Clearwater Creek Water Resource and Recovery Facility. That's not built yet, but it's in design with UEG, which is the Woman Hollering Creek sewer shed, not the Santa Clara Creek sewer shed. And this is interesting on their kayak fee. If you read through the studies on the sewer, their kayak fee is based on the wastewater treatment plant upsize. So, they don't have the standard $5,985 kayak fee. Theirs is based on the wastewater treatment plant costs, which that cost right now was scheduled at $13,286.38 for the sewer kayak fee of this development. However, that'll be fine tuned once we award the wastewater treatment plant contract and have those costs locked in. So those were all based off of anticipated wastewater treatment plant costs. But when those costs get locked in at award, then we'll adjust the kayak fees for those developments that are having to pay that kayak fee.
Just a quick refresher. Now that it's pretty set, we're going to build a Clearwater Creek plant. How many developments are looking at coming to that we know of right now, or that haven't even come to us yet?
Right now, it's only those 3, sir. There are plans to expand that Clearwater Creek treatment plant to, I want to say, 500,000. But we're only going to I want to say 0.4. Right now, we're designing at 200,000, but I think the next step is 400,000. And that's only for these 3.
So the plant's capacity today can service all 3 of those developments?
It will once it's built.
No. Today,
Doesn't
can
exist
the
today.
plant service those units?
Doesn't exist.
No, there's no plant today.
So there's no ability to service these developments right now.
Not today. Not until that plant gets built, which will probably be in 2 years.
So are we, question for the
Are we
for the
con-
group, but
contracted?
are we exposing ourselves to possible exposure by committing to something that we cannot service?
The contract duration for this one, I believe, is 5 years, or do we do a 2-year on that one? That will be in here. Let me help you all navigate that contract. But this contract is in place. Most of these for that area are 5 years because of that plant. So if you go to the section in the contract under, was it terms of contract, I want to say? Section 10. So this one's a 2 calendar year one. So they're subject to us pulling the contract from them. This is what this contract's set up for.
Gotcha.
If
So
they
we're
don't,
not 100% committed to serve.
correct, if they don't finish within that 2-year period, we can pull the contract.
Just one comment on that. You're committed to serve, but the contract says that they have to pay for it. So if we go out and design this plant, we bid it and say, okay, Mr. Developer, here's your bill. And they say, no, we're not paying that. All bets are off. They've already paid for design. They're paying through that. Green Valley is billing them as we bill for design. But the contract set up, if we go out and bid it and they say, no, that's too much, we're going to scrap the project, it's scrapped and Green Valley doesn't have any expense into it. The developer's paying for everything. And just to be clear, all 3 of these developments, Clearwater, Lily Trails, and this track, Thea Springs, is the same developer. All different names, but same developer. So even on the water.
That's good detail because I was a little hesitant if I rely on Mr. King to
Absolutely.
do something and then I don't have to do as much, but we agreed to this, that was a little concerning.
And that's why the kayak fee allocation is the way it is. It puts this development on par with the other 2 developments. Everybody's paying the same thing on an LUE basis. On the water side, Gabe mentioned the 12-inch water line through Clearwater. That line is going through plan review right now. I think we've done 3 or 4 plan reviews on that. So we're getting close to approval on that one. So the plans will be, but they're driving the ship. They're driving the schedule. So if they don't build the 12-inch line, all these developments fall apart and they don't get built. But all indications are that they're going to be built. They're turning in plans on Lily Trails. They're turning in plans on Clearwater. So all indication is the developments are moving forward.
And Abbott Road, that developer is
Right.
going to be escrowing those funds here probably next month.
Right.
So that is a key piece of information. Thank you, Gary.
Just
That all
one,
3 developments are the same developer.
just one quick question. This may be a geographic question because I live in the area out there. I've noticed some development along 2538 heading towards the New Berlin, and it's before you get to Miller Road that somebody is developing a huge retention pond and clearing back into, what would that be, the west? Any idea which development I'm looking at there?
Is that the Century Oaks? Oh, Clearwater.
Oh, it is Clearwater. So they came all the way up and started at
Right.
2538.
Yeah, they have a rough grading permit through Bear County to do their rough grading and tree clearing and all of those things. So
Yeah.
they have their permit that they need to be able to do that.
Yeah, because that's a massive retention
is.
pond they put up there. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
And then I have a question about the kayak. So we said our standard is 59 and change, 5,900 and change, but these developments are paying 13,000 and change. So why would they pay more than our standard kayak fee?
It's not a standard kayak fee in this circumstance. It is a true contribution in aid of construction for their development. So as outlined in here, the wastewater treatment plant is the costs for it.
So
We've outlined those costs
so in the
of the wastewater
future-
treatment plant.
in the future, if this developer comes with another development that's going to tie into that, those kayak fees are then going to change until the actual true cost
That will
of
be a
that
totally
facility gets
different
built.
Agreement. So if another
Right,
developer
different
comes
agreement.
in and wants to provide, use the Clearwater Creek wastewater treatment plant to provide wastewater treatment services,
Mhm.
that's going to have to be a whole nother review and redesign and upsize of the treatment plant and a whole nother agreement within itself. This plant's strictly for these 3 developments.
So if any other player that comes into it that's separate from this developer, how are they going to be treated?
Like this one, they're gonna have to fund and probably a wastewater treatment plant. And well, I mean, we're doing a wastewater master plan, right? So in that wastewater master plan, we should probably be looking at that, right? Be looking at that area expansion and what are we gonna be doing with that Clearwater Creek wastewater treatment plant? Which is why we need to get this wastewater master plan done. So we have a plan in place for those developers who do come in. what are they going to have to do and participate in to get that area service
And I
to
think-
expand the treatment.
I think that's key, is get a plan in place so that we've looked at the plan and asked all these questions about the plan, and then subsequent developments would just adhere to the plan.
And that's the purpose of the plan, right? So the purpose of the plan is to help the developer offset these costs and not have to pay a $14,000 kayak fee. But because there is no plan in place for that particular region, they're having to eat the costs for the entire service.
Do we have an ETA on when that's going to be ready?
Have a deadline of October 1st. So it is underway with Garver. We got Greg here with Garver. And they have started the assessment. So they need some information from us that we're currently processing to get to them. We will need some of UEG's participation and probably some of Tri-Hydro's participation because they have a lot of our hydraulic flow data that we're needing to get over to them.
So remind me again, the size that they're building, is it 250,000? Or that plant that they're going to be putting in there for those 3 developments, what sizing is that?
400,000, I want to say.
So that's
built
400.
out.
400,000 is what's currently permitted, and that covers all 3 developments.
Okay.
Any new development would be a permit. We would need to modify the permit with TCEQ, and it would be a plan expansion. You already own the property. This developer has dedicated land for the plant, and there's a little bit of room, not a ton of room to expand, but that's part of what the master plan will identify too, is additional lands that's needed to build out that sewer shed, if that occurs and when it occurs.
Everybody, any other questions on water, wastewater? I can see you thinking a lot.
Well, I'm not thinking, I'm just very concerned about making a commitment to a project without having a commitment from us onto development of the wastewater plant, finalizing those plans. To Mr. Sherman's point, we don't have a plan. We don't have anything in hand to be able to, and we're making a commitment to a developer that we're going to do this.
Based on, I would say, based on their commitment to fund all these projects and get them completed.
Sure. Financially, I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
We're relatively covered. But as we all know, construction projects never end on time.
I understand and agree. Yeah, this one particularly is very much on the front end of all this other work that needs to get done, as outlined.
So you're comfortable with the timeline?
I'm comfortable with their commitment to get it done because they're going to have to fund the project, all the interim projects on the way to building all this out, i.e. Abbott Road next month. So same developer for all 3. They're going to have to escrow those funds and know that, they will be reimbursed for escrowing all those funds through the water impact fees, which is only motivation for them to develop, to get the reimbursement of the projects and all of the projects that they're having to build. So it's in their best interest to build them out because they're kind of reimbursing themselves.
Ultimately.
Mike.
Do a sidebar, sorry.
Shan, are you comfortable with this from what you read up and drafted?
Yeah, I looked into this in depth and I've raised several issues internally with staff regarding all of this. And as drafted, I don't see, I never say never, but I don't really see a risk here to
Our
Green Valley.
position on this is very strong that we're comfortable if this stuff doesn't go down their way, then we're not on the hook.
That's right.
I would comment, it's about risk management, right? when you really think about what risk we are taking to extend this, it's really relatively limited, right? The way the contract is structured, if they build the infrastructure they require, then we will service it, right? And so we have an off-ramp built into it. But in good faith, it seems like the amount of business we're going to do with this particular developer in these 3 areas, in good faith, I would think that's pretty much good motivation for them to do it. And so I think it's a good deal. I think risk is low, my opinion, my assessment.
All right. So with knowing that last minute questions, concerns, going once? Nope. All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the water non-standard service agreement for the SA Do the Evolution, also known as Thea Springs subdivision.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper,
Second.
by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Go to wastewater non-standard service agreement for G2.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the wastewater non-standard service agreement for the SA Do the Evolution, also known as Thea Springs subdivision.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper,
Second.
second by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Motion's passed.
And I
Okay.
got to say, thanks, Gabe, for your hard work on this. I
Yes,
appreciate
no,
your
we-
ability to answer questions.
Yeah, this
Thank
you.
this was not
Detail.
a standard
Clear cut
deal.
dry.
and We've been hitting
We
you with.
appreciate the questions
questions.
and it's our obligation to provide you all the information that you all need to make a decision.
Appreciate that. Okay, moving on. So we're gonna hold off on G3. We're gonna take that into executive session along with item H. So we're gonna hold off on those for a minute. We're gonna jump to agenda item I, consider updates to wastewater billing services for retail public utility provided by a special utility district agreement with Zip Road Utilities, including authorizing the general manager to sign the necessary amendments and take action as necessary. On agenda item I. Who will be running point on that? Mr. DeFrancesco.
Okay, so what this is we currently have a service agreement with Zip Road Utilities, which is managed by BVRT. We have a representative here today. And staff met with BVRT on, I want to say Tuesday of last week, or whatever the day before the agenda was posted. We were able to get this in at the last second. What prompted this meeting was concerns from some of our customers that have had issues with setting up their connections. Just for a little historical, Zip Road Utilities is located off of FM 725 and they provide wastewater service. Green Valley is the water provider in the area. We require a sewer service, I believe, affidavit from the customer before we set a meter, before we get the water turned on. There's been some confusion and a little bit of headache for our customers and trying to coordinate between BVRT, between Green Valley and the customer. And all three, or both the entities agreed that it would be in the best interest of us and the customer for Green Valley to take on the responsibility of setting up the accounts. So the board has in front of them an amendment to our service agreement with them with two items. Section number 1, where Green Valley will be taking over the setting up of the accounts. And then the compensation of that for section number 7 is we currently do a $5 monthly service fee to BVRT, Zip Road Utilities, and that will be increased to $10 monthly. So those are the two changes that you have before you.
How many units are included in this region? Is any?
I want to say around between 250 to 300.
And then maybe I'm missing it, but is there any built-in, opportunity to look back and check as costs go up, inflation increases, in future years, we take another look at this, or is it just a renewal annually, or how do we renew this? How does Green Valley have an opportunity to take a look at this fee, monthly fee to make sure it's recouping our costs?
Part of that is kind of what we're doing right now. I don't know if I don't have the agreement in front of me. I don't know if there's a built-in mechanism.
I didn't
to look
see
at it.
anything.
I believe you
Not-
guys just have the amendment in front of you, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, it just has the agency report and then the fees. It doesn't have any terms of renewal or when we
So,
can.
Zip Road Utilities is one of 3 sewer providers that Green Valley handles the billing for, GBRA as well as City Cibolo. So I will just say that staff is looking at all 3 of those. We're looking at, they haven't been updated, they haven't been looked at in a while. Zip Road is the first one, and that was initiated because of customer concerns on just the challenges that they've had with initiating and getting their account set up. As part of that, we also looked at the fees. So staff is currently looking at all of the service agreements that we have with wastewater providers.
If staff is comfortable with the adjustment to the cost, I'll trust y'all that this is what we need. I would like to have, papered that at some point in the future, we can, when that fee doesn't cover our efforts, we can take another look back and have an adjustment in the future.
The timeline on something like that would have to be before budget season. So if we are going to do this with all three entities, not just ZIP, we need to get that synchronized correctly to where it's an annual review. If we have to do anything, just keep it the same or not.
And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how many years, before we need to look at it again. So I don't know what to tell you the answer is, but that's the only thing.
If we approve this, I'm pretty sure we can do with conditions that this gets reviewed on an annual basis just for spot checks. Shan, what do you advise on that?
The contract as written, and I apologize, I didn't bring it with me, but because these are very simple amendments, but it is also a very simple agreement. If I think what I'm hearing would dictate toward another amendment. So if you would all consider a motion to approve this as presented with an amendment to that specifically authorizes the parties to renegotiate the underlying rates as often as every year or every 2 years or whatever you want to recommend.
And we need to make it cyclic, where every year we're at least watching it, checking it.
Yeah, that would be
making
fine.
sure.
So I think it would be best if the chair would entertain a motion to approve as presented with an amendment, with an additional amendment to provide for an additional, for an opportunity to revise the underlying rate on an annual basis.
I think I can take a wag at that if nobody else has.
Good.
Before you do, if you don't mind, so if you step back from this in the aggregate, right? So this is not, we're not making money off of this for Green Valley. Not at all. And I wouldn't expect to, but we've been doing this service for Zip Road for a number of years. We have shared customers. When customers pay their bill, they see Green Valley, right? And so it's in our best interest, as an organization, to streamline the process for new service setups because it helps us and it helps Zip Road. So the change in rate is a really nominal amount because the total charge is not very much to begin with. It's only $35 if I recall correctly. So really what we're doing is just streamlining, right? And so I do recommend we could put in a rate review, every 1 year. That would be something agreeable. And I believe the other party would agree to that as well. But it's not a big dollar figure. And it does not require more staff as we're currently configured. So we can do this within current resources. We're just updating a process that's better for the customers.
No, I totally agree. And I think because this is the first, right, we have to set the standard going forward. And I think if we make it known that we did it with them, we're going to do it with everybody else, a yearly annual review, just a spot check. It's not, like you said, it's not mission critical, but it keeps us in line with making sure we didn't miss something. So
I'd like to also make a suggestion that we do this rate review before the budget process.
that was the thing too, is before that, so we could take those numbers into consideration when factoring in the budgets. So it would be a May timeframe as far as review for not only this one, but the other ones, Ciblo and all the other ones, but that's not going to be in the motion. But just keep that in mind. So when you do go to them looking at their service agreements, just keep in mind, May would be the shot clock that we would look at. So Nick, you want to take a shot?
Yes, I'll take a shot at it. So I make a motion that, let me read correctly off of, and I make a motion that we approve the update to the wastewater billing services for a retail public utility provided by a special utility district agreement with Zip Road Utilities as presented, with one modification of an annual review by Green Valley of the fee. We like that?
So that would be an amendment.
I can make that work. Thanks.
To make that work, Shan? Okay. All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Sherman.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, ayes have it. All right. So at this time, we're gonna run through these other ones that we have up, and then we'll enter into executive session. So we're gonna go to J, adopt order appointing the general manager to act as the board designated agent in connection with the November 5th, 2024 election, authorizing such future actions as may be lawfully performed by the district agent in connection with the election, and ratify prior actions taken in furtherance of conduct of election and take action as necessary.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper,
Second.
second by Mr. Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And it's also translated in Spanish, which I will not translate. Sorry, apologize for that. But item K, approve joint election agreements and election services contracts with the Bexar County, Comal County, Guadalupe County for the November 5th, 2024 election and take action necessary.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item L, authorize the general manager to enter into a joint agreement of election between the Edgewater Aquifer Authority, East Central ISD, Edgewood ISD, South San Antonio ISD, Southside ISD, City of Converse, City of Sandy Oak, City of Short, City of Windcrest, Bexar County, WCID, Green Valley SUD, Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater District, City of Kingsbury, Universal City, New Braunfels, ISD, Comal ISD, Navarro ISD, Comal ISD, again, God. Okay, sorry. Comal County WID, and authorize entering into an agreement allowing the Guadalupe County Elections Administrator, Comal County Election Administrator, Bexar County Election Administrator to conduct the November 5th, 2024 election and take actions necessary.
I didn't get all that. Could you, I don't know, do it?
James got to do it.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thinking about it.
I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
Don't do that.
What? I can't hear. I have hearing
Who,
aids.
who's up this cycle?
So it's Mr.
Cooper and I.
Hendricks and Mr. Cooper. All right, so at this time, we're gonna go to M real quick. Mr. Shan, do you have any updates pending litigation from that's affecting the district? And
No new,
new ones?
no new threatened litigation or pending litigation. There is one item in addition to the items we've already tagged, which are item G3 and item H and item F, that I'd like to take into executive discussion regarding a contract issue.
Okay, so at this time is 10:23. We will be taking agenda items F, G3, H, N, O, and P.
And those are all under
Session.
551071.
Yes, under Texas Government Code Section 551.071-551.074 and or 551.076 on matters of which the attorney has a duty to report under Texas rules and disciplinary conduct. Recess before that for 10 minutes, and then we'll go into executive session at 10:34. Thank you. All right, calling this meeting back to order. Time is 1:17. And we're following executive session. We're going to jump to item Q, before we get to that one. Mr. Cantu, can you come up and do a brief on item H?
Yeah, so item H is we got a memo on that forward water acquisition fee study. Green Valley Special Utility District is currently processing a water acquisition fee study. Hopefully we'll have it ready to present to the board here within the next month or two. We're waiting on some key information from ARWA and CRWA. Water impact fee study. I'll just briefly go over the attachments 1 and 2. Attachment 1 is the water impact fee study. Attachment 2 are the exhibits to that impact fee study. Just thumbing through, I'll just point out some of the highlights there. It is highlighted with a bunch of key points. Page 4. The impact fee assessment is based off the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 395, or Texas Local Government Code 395 and Texas Administrative Code Title 30, Chapter 293. We use the growth-related cost allocation method to calculate the amount. On page 5 of 65, I'd like to mention that, the impact fees are one-time charges paid by new development to finance the construction of public facilities needed to serve it. And I'd also like to mention there highlighted, the purpose is to ensure that adequate public infrastructure is provided to development in order to maintain public health and safety and welfare. And these fees cannot be used for personnel, operating, maintenance, repair, alteration, or replacement of existing infrastructure. I'd like to kind of zoom forward to page 7. We got a little graph there, and it kind of points out all the some of the surrounding water districts, and it shows the current impact fee and where we are related to those other districts, and our proposed impact fee and where we are related to those other districts. And that though we do have it there for reference, we do not recommend using this chart in whole, as it doesn't reflect other fees that the other districts also have in addition to the impact fees, such other fees that are we're only talking about the water impact fee here, not all these other fees. So that's not a great chart to look at as far as relating to the fees as a whole. On page 8, we just like to point out that the basis of this calculation, we have to consider not only the capital improvement plan, which is in the water master plan, but we also have to consider the repair and maintenance plan, if you will, of the operating system, which we have provided as an exhibit. Further down the sheet, on 2.2, it says in coordination with the district staff, the project team determined the district's forecast growth in EDUs for the next 5 years is 5,671 additional EDUs based on the CIP plan at 5.5% growth. Coming forward to sheet 12. The district has historically utilized 50% adjustment and impact fees as discussed in the Water Code, Chapter 395. And it is our recommendation that this option be exercised in this study. And as part of exhibits of this assessment, we've got the code, both the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 293, and the Texas Administrative Code 395 for reference. And if you thumb to page 29 of 65 of this memorandum, it kind of explains that 50% calculation. And thumbing forward to page 64 and 65 of the study, the last 2 pages of this entire memorandum, if you will. On page 64, we've got a table there pulled out of the water master plan that was approved a couple of months ago. It shows our 10-year growth rate at 5.5%. And just for reference, that's about 745 meters per year. And the next sheet is kind of like the sheet that is a better summary of the overall assessment using the 5.5% growth rate highlighted in yellow. That's how we have calculated the fee. And that is the most fair assessment we can come up with based off of all the data we have and the area growth rates at hand. If we had used 5% or 6%, we've got the fees reflected there. But we recommend using and have used the 5.5% growth rate to assess the proposed impact fee. And with that being said, we propose the water impact fee at 74.23 as outlined in the study and in the memorandum, and ask for motion for a resolution to be passed for that fee. Any questions?
No, I think you covered it well. I will make a motion that the board approve resolution number 2024-1A, resolution of the Board of Directors of Green Valley Special Utility District approving impact fee study and resulting impact fee amount, approving land use plan, and authorizing submission of proposed impact fee adjustment to a total of $7,423 to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Cooper is not present for the vote. He had to leave earlier.
And John, we need to grab G3.
Yep, so I'm going back to that. So that's on item H. Thank you, Gabe, for that. We're gonna jump back to G3, Flying Bar D LLC 13681 FM 725, New Braunfels, Texas 78130, north intersection of Leisner School Road and FM 725. 3GI is a water non-standard service agreement. Gabe or Gary, do you have any comments in open session you want to talk about?
No comments, but available for questions.
Okay. That,
If there's no questions, Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we table item G3I.
okay, so I have a motion to table by Mr. Sherman.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Mr. Cooper is not present for the vote. Okay, we're gonna jump to, now that that's all taken care of. Agenda item Q, consideration and possible action on items discussed in executive session. We're gonna have, I think, matters on N. And I believe that was it.
I'd like to make a motion on N to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with SWBC PEO for HR services.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. King,
Second.
second by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
And we've already given direction on the other ones. Are there any other motions that need to be made or action taken? Good. All right, we're gonna jump to item R, consideration for proposed items to be included on next month's board meeting agenda. Does anybody have anything pressing that they want? If not, please get with me and then we'll get it on the agenda. Going to agenda item S, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. McDaniel, a second by Mr. Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
Guys have it. Thank you. Time is 1:27.